been working with the new version of Cognos 11 since I was able to get my hands on it late December, early January. So wanted to kind of share with you some takeaways that we've had actually getting our hands on it and let you know what you can kind of do to prepare yourself better to make that move when you are ready. Start with some good news first. When 10.2.2 was first released, they announced at that time that this would be the final version that we would support any Query Studio or Analysis Studio reports. Um, they actually stepped back on that line in the sand and now are supporting Query Studio and Analysis Studio in at least the initial version of Cognos 11 or Cognos Analytics. Um, so when we first heard that they were going to cut that out yes? Okay. Um, so I was talking about version 10.2.2 when that was first released about a year ago, maybe a little longer. Cognos initially announced that this would be the final version to support any Query Studio or Analysis Studio reports. So you need to get off of them immediately. When we heard that news, we huddled up with Modio at the time and wanted to see what we could do to make it easier to transition people who had invested heavily in those studios, and if there was a way we could get those to convert to the formats such as Report Studio and Workspace Advanced that would be supported in 10.2.2 and beyond. The good news is that Cognos Analytics is still going to support Query Studio, Analysis Studio, including Event Studio, Metric Studio, PowerPlay Studio as well. However, when you open them and migrate them over to Cognos 11, they're actually going to open in a new tab or window, and you won't be able to use all the new features and functionality that's kind of baked into the new interface. So you still have the same access to the studios. They still work the way they did. You just lose out on all the new capabilities. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit. And while that's you know, still the studios that we're used to, there's now a single reporting tool in Cognos Analytics that's called authoring. So as far as thinking about that, in the past we were used to kind of having a separate studio for each task that we wanted to do. So for about 10 years now, since the release of Cognos 8, we would have the thinking that okay, I need to run a quick ad hoc report. I'm going to launch Query Studio, or I want to slice and dice this cube data. I'm going to launch PowerPlay Studio or Analysis Studio, or I'll fire up Report Studio because I want to make a complex report with multiple queries and it needs to be pixel perfect. That line of thinking is no longer needed. It's a one-stop shop now for a fully integrated tool. Um, so because of that, you want to make sure all your reports are going to be able to use that new tool. And as of right now, the only ones that are the same spec is Report Studio and Workspace Advanced, which is really just a subset of Report Studio. So if you have already heavily invested in those, and that's pretty much the majority of your reports, you're in great shape. If you have been using Query Studio or PowerPlay or Analysis Studio, you want to try to get those converted. The reason that we were stressing this is because of the new feature, which is known as interactive mode, or interactive versus non-interactive concept. When you put a report into interactive mode now, a lot of the functionality that you kind of had to add in with JavaScript or different tricks that you could do with Cognos that were often time consuming and sometimes would break or not be supported from version to version, that's all baked in now. There's the ability to swap rows and columns, filter, sort. You can create charts on the fly. You can freeze column and row headers. So it's pretty powerful stuff. One thing to note is that turning on the interactive mode will disable any JavaScript that you currently have. So if you've invested in something that's not supported, or you have certain things that you're using in your reports today that need to continue, you'll have to make sure that you keep those specific reports in the non-interactive mode. This is a setting that you can toggle at the report level, so you can set one by one if you have to, and decide which ones need to get converted, which ones would stay put.